Welcome to Creatacast with your host, David Welch. So, got some good news. We are now on the iHeartRadio platform, which is amazing. I definitely want to say a thank you to my listeners, everybody in my leadership group as well, and the writing community. If it wasn't for you guys and the appreciation for this content, it wouldn't happen. So, moving forward, I'm definitely going to make this show huge. I want to ensure that my listeners out there understand what the show's about. So if you're listening to me for the first time today, understand that my show is a creative writing podcast. Essentially, my goal is to take creative works from you, the creative writing community, the writing community at large, and discuss your work, read it aloud on air, and move through it with a critical eye, and let the writing community receive you. So that's my goal. My goal here is to talk about creative writing in all its formats. And today I really want to cover the format of manga, anime, and comic book writing. Those are some really hardcore tropes and styles of writing that people are not attaching to the literature genre. And I believe they should. One of the main reasons that comic books are living literature is that they are today's penny dreadfuls. They are today's very cheap entertainment. They reach a wide freaking audience, and now they're becoming more mainstream with films like Avengers Infinity War coming out, Part 2, Captain Marvel, Deadpool, we love him. If it weren't for those putting in the work in the comic book room and story writing, now the stories, if you really dig into them, are marvelous. They really are, and that's a good a good catch line for Marvel right there, but they are marvelous. You have amazing story writing going on in the comic book world. Same with manga, same with anime. And a lot of people say, well, manga's just anime that's on the page. True, but anime also, like the story writing that goes on and the storyboarding that happens when an anime show is actually put out, like Dragon Ball Z, Escaflowne. Growing up, that was what I watched. I watched, a lot of anime, a lot of animated cartoons. I mean, that was what I grew up on. And I grew up reading comics. Entering the discussion now are even full-length novelizations of Marvel films, full-length novels on Captain America and, the whole Marvel universe essentially is being novelized. And there are a lot of authors really fighting for it. And I also want to discuss fan fiction and how important fan fiction is. Fan fiction is amazing. One, it's a valuable tool to build your skill set. If you can get into the mindset of a style of story and make it work for the page and get it out there in the forums and the Patreons and the different things that are out there for that medium, because there is a hunger for it. I think I saw one the other day that was fucking amazing. It was the BAU from Criminal Minds hunting down Dexter. Best fucking fan fiction I've ever seen. It was detailed. It was a plausible story based on what we've left off of with Dexter and how it came to be. Of course the BAU won, but it wasn't a win-win. It was a heavy win. It was a really detailed fan fiction. Now, if you were to tell me where that link is or where to find it, couldn't tell you. I can't even remember what forum I was in when I read that. But it was detailed. It was very well done. And I've seen Aliens fan fiction, Predator fan fiction, and it's on a different level, guys. I'm telling you, you got some people that are so into the universe, especially when it comes to Star Trek. Oh my, get Star Wars, Star Trek, Star anything. Battlestar Galactica, there is fan fiction out there for it. Now there's fan fiction when it comes to other films. like Serenity or Firefly, and they're coming out swinging. These authors are, I don't know if they write full time or whatever have you, but if you understand those films, those series, and you understand the mindset of the person writing them, because they're a true diehard fan, they're going to know the ins and outs. They're going to know the tweaks and the little subtle information you may not even catch if you were watching the show. They're going to know that intimately, and they're going to be able to give you or produce a work that is very analogous to what you would envision the show looking like. And that's the value of that. That's extremely valuable for those who are learning how to be detailed writers. So for that community to not be recognized at large in the literature community, or at least kind of scoffed at when it comes to their creative juices, is nothing to be laughing at. It's really not. I really appreciate, I mean, and I love classic fiction too. I read the classics, as a very young man, and did a whole bunch of reading, in college. I mean, I was reading like 24 books a semester or something crazy like that. And I have appreciation for Westerns, the classics, historical fiction. That definitely has its place. It's all leading up to what is the macro sense of the writing community. Now, fantasy, young adult, love it, live it, breathe it. Sci-fi is a huge community unto their own, and it's appreciated all the way around. Now, if you find somebody's work that you're absolutely adoring and in love with, and you develop your writing style to produce quality fan fiction, quality work, I mean, you're providing entertainment to the masses, whether or not you're being paid for it or not. You're doing it because it's a love and it's a passion of yours. Now, if you could turn those creative juices into your own unique storyline and your own unique universe or whatever have you, that's great. But if you do operate in that mode where you feel like you're kind of limited or truncated to a specific type of writing community, stick in it. You may not get paid, but you can be recognized for the quality of work you produce. I mean, it's not lost on me when an essay, there's a fantastic essay or something I read on Medium, because I love that platform. If you are not reading Medium, if you haven't downloaded that and you haven't read some of the essays on there, especially Ethan Siegel, geez, that dude's got a hell of a bank of work for his efforts in conquering, doing science fiction essays. I mean, this dude could write for the Scientific American and kill those articles. And I don't know if he does already. I mean, he might do that professionally, or he could be a scientist somewhere camped out, and on his spare time, he comes up with these, plausible explanations for these oh shit theories. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I mean, definitely appreciate your fan fiction, people. Appreciate manga, because, I mean, believe it or not, it's not a subgenre anymore. It's not. It is mainstream. You go to Barnes & Noble right now, they have a whole section dedicated to it. Now, it is more still on the obscure. Of course, just like comics, it's really kind of in its own little unique area. But more and more, and as I go to that section, the fiction section, I am seeing it's getting larger and larger by the day. A section for those series that are popular in television right now, and there's a writer that's, assigned or driven to write for it, and they do kind of like Supernatural, kind of like other different series, and those writers also have that book platform that is enormous. I mean, if you're jumping into the Predator universe, you have to get that okay by one of those early writers and one of those licensing people. They're like, okay, well, this got to fit into the continuity of the universe. And if it does, and you got a story to tell, shoot for it. Ask for the licensing. Let's say, hey, man, this fits right into the continuity of what's going on. A book in this series hasn't been produced for a couple of years. Here's something new. Here's something fresh. I mean, you as a publisher out there, if you're listening to this, what have you got to lose? you're not going to lose a following that's already dedicated. You're going to, if anything, you reignite it. Get something new on the table. Especially if it's old characters. Now, if you do something abstract like the fucking New 52, and you turn some of the stories that are hardcore stories on their head, and you alter the look of some of the characters, the community's going to get kind of beefy. They're going to be like, listen, you fucks with our shit. Or if you're not getting the okay of like Kevin Eastman, for crying out loud, and you're trying to do a Turtles thing, hey, you might want to kind of understand where that trend in story is going to go. Now, I've seen multiple variations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in different fan fiction forums. Batman's got a good one. So there are a ton of them out there. So give them a look. Type in fan fiction. I'm telling you, you're going to pull up forum after forum after forum and page after page after page. And people have some quality work out there. I've even seen a awesome continuation of the Peter Pan story on Patreon somewhere. And it was fucking dope. Like, if you look up the different Patreon, and they're so smart, this writer is so smart that they're getting paid per chapter. So they produce a chapter, and then their readers read it for about a week, and then the new chapter comes out, or 2 weeks, or whatever it is, and the new chapter comes out, and then that's how you hook your readers. I mean, I thought that shit was genius. I'm like, I'm trying to emulate that, but I'm like, my writing process is too damn slow for that to work, but that was cool. Like, I mean, you learn things like that. And if you're a writer and you're not taking advantage of all the platforms of media, you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, I know you Twitter hounds out there like, well, Twitter's gotten me quite a jump already. People have bought my books based on what they've seen on Twitter. Fantastic. But there's nothing stopping you from making a commercial, nothing stopping you from getting your work out there. And for heaven's sakes, writers, if you have a buddy that is an artist, and I'm talking a true artist, somebody who's got fantastical art and they're super detailed and they should be doing comic books somewhere, give them a shot. Give them a shout out. Pay for one of their pieces to do your book and say, hey, read this book, do the art for it. I'll put it as my cover page, and then bam, you launch 2 careers simultaneously. And your friend, who's a closet artist, who's this person who does maybe doodles for the local newspaper, is going to thank you and say, fuck, thank you. I appreciate you. You went out on a limb and gave me a shot. And now I'm doing huge. I'm getting calls all over the place. I have an agent now. And that shit does happen. And I got to give a shout out to my sister-in-law, Caitlin. Keep writing. Keep writing. Yeah, I mean, right now the agent wasn't really, feeling your book. You went back at it. You rewrote a lot of what you produced. Gave it a quality look. And you know what? It's okay. Find another agent. Somebody else that'll take a chance on you. Query for an agent. If you're running into roadblocks, have an editor take a look at it. Say, hey, what is going on with my story? And if it's with you, like if it's just, hey, there are some mechanical issues, then yeah, that can be ironed out. Now, don't sell yourself short and try to, say, hey, I don't belong in the writing community, because you absolutely freaking do. Your imagination is pretty compelling. So keep on the attack. Don't give up. And that's any writer out there right now, if you're listening to me. Keep on the attack. Keep writing. You're not dead yet. Your fingers still move. Or you can get Dragon Speak and you can talk into it. Whatever method you're using right now, utilize it. Continue to write, continue to produce work. I mean, just because you're having a down month, down year, down whatever, doesn't mean you have to stop. Doesn't mean you put the pen down forever. There are guys that get started years later and come back with an edginess that they never knew they had. So keep on the attack. And don't discount other people's creative juices. Don't. If you guys, this one buddy of yours that plays video games all day and he writes these Fortnite stories, don't knock him. If he plays D&D, especially if he plays D&D, and he's like a dungeon master, that person's brain's already operating on the highest tempo you could possibly. They're doing calculations, they're creating dungeons, they're doing all sorts of things. So if you got a buddy like that, and they're already building universes and worlds or interacting within a already set universe or world, they have a platform. So sometimes as a, more traditional writer for me, like I get inspiration from the news. I get inspiration from all sorts of places. And if you get inspiration from comic books, and then that's your mode, live in it. If you get inspiration from TED Talks, it's your mode, live in it. And that's honestly one of my goals. One of my goals, period, is to do a TED Talk. Regardless of the topic right now, I just want to do one because that would be fun. And I think, if I did do a TED Talk, it would definitely be on the writing community at large and what we can contribute to a global literacy campaign. And here's what I mean by that. We have authors like J.K. Rowling and other authors that have an international reach. They have a global ability to reach out there and touch lives and create escapist literature that pans and, moves through all of the reading communities out there. And if you're a heavy reader like me and you're buying 21 books a month or some shit like that, you've got to give back. You have to. Yeah, you can have this vast mass library, but if you're not utilizing those books need to be read. Find your local, like for me, I went to a boys' home. One of those boys' homes, they had crappy books on the shelves. I think they had like the world's shittiest library. It was like, I don't know, like just a shelf with like several, a couple books. Or books are very popular at hospitals, by the way. Or books are what people live on when they're in prison. Or, I'm telling you, books change worlds. Books allow people to live in worlds while they're not wanting to be in our world. So, and you're sitting here thinking, oh, they're in prison. They obviously deserve to be there. Fuck no, we already know that's not true. We already know there's people in prison today, right now, who have never been charged with a crime. So that mentality has to shift. It has to shift. And one ways we can shift that is by reaching out with our hearts and giving someone a book, whether it's religious text or whatever have you, whether it's your own poetry book or fan fiction or whatever. You can create a following that way. Whatever community you want to serve and service, that's what you do. Okay? Keep on the attack. Give a shout out to iHeartRadio and please give me submissions. I need to read your work. Send your submissions to dwelch9627@gmail.com. I am more than happy to read your work on the air. If you want to read it yourself, please send me a YouTube link or a link with a video clip. That way you can read your own work live on my show or have it read on my show. That way you can, and please send me the text, because ultimately when I do get enough submissions, I do want to open up a digital magazine. Opening up a digital magazine for my platform would be amazing because it allows someone somewhere to be published. It allows them to get further out there. So I'm going to keep my shows going. I'm going to keep this consistent as hell. And I need you, the writing community, to submit your work. I need you, the writing community, to contact me. Say, hey, I want to jump on your show. Let's have a dialogue about what I'm seeing in writing, what I'm seeing in poetry, what I'm seeing in creative nonfiction. And I'm going to reach out to some author buddies of mine, see if I can't, rope them into a conversation and see where their genesis is, see where they got started, see where they're moving now, see what direction they're going. Because the writing community is someone who practices writing, somebody who keeps writing as a craft and they become super dedicated to that craft, will ultimately publish something of note. Whether it's of note to the entire writing community or just a small community of people that it represents. Here's what I mean. So, if you publish a book and it's a book about how, kind of hobnob, high middle class, people in the suburbs of whatever fucking city you want to make it, and it's kind of an OC type tale, then that's what it is. That's the craft that you write in. That's the mode you write in. But work on your mechanics. So a lot of people get fucked up on the mechanics, their story. They get messed up on how the trajectory of their story is going to go. Where is the plot twist? And that's why I say mapping or developing a list of specific things you want to have in your story is amazing. Free writing is great to kick it off. Free writing gets your creative juices going. It allows you to be your own words, and you're able to produce something relatively quickly. That is freedom. That is a freedom that a lot of writers don't have. A lot of writers already block themselves, hence writing block, that I don't believe really exists. It is a mechanism that prevents you from going further and completing projects. You need to complete these projects for them to be read. If you're a person who does biographies, if you hunt down every research detail and it takes you a year to do it and you produce it, then great. Please, please, please. We need more historians. We need people that do that. And like I said, the writing community, when it comes to producing comics, it's something about comics that really livens up our world. A lot of people can delve into comics. Find your buddy that is the super, amazing illustrator and writer and inker in your life, and craft a story that they can pen, and that way you can see it visually manifest in real life, and maybe as a duo you can team up and produce the most quality things and create your own universe, your own. Next thing you know, you got agents calling you, hey, I want this, I want to make it a movie, I want to do this, I want an episodic, whatever the case may be. You turn something that is a passion project and a heart project into something meaningful, into something that the whole world can enjoy. I've seen that time and again. That's why people secretly still go back and watch the old Star Treks, because they love that universe. They love the idea of being able to travel to other planets, and you have a rank system. You have alien species that you'll recognize based on how they speak and what words they use and the inflection of their voice. Like, you can't tell me that if you're a true Star Trek fan and you hear Patak, you know what alien community I'm talking about. So, get your nerdy on, and get your nerdy on in a most aggressive fashion. And here's what I mean. Please, 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 please produce work. Write. Research. Create something nuanced that people haven't seen. Now, me as a kid, I've always, when I was growing up, I was like, I want one of my stories to be on the Outer Limits, because I loved the 90s Outer Limits. Fantastic series, loved it. And I wanted one of my stories to be created and produced like one of those episodes. I wanted one of my fiction stories to really reach that bizarre zone, reach that zone of, hey, it creates a readership, and it creates a fanatical love for a certain type of story. We saw that with the X-Files. We have X-Files that started off as this, episodes and things like that. Next thing you know, there's 40 books on X-Files, and you're like, is this canon? And you start worrying about, oh man, is Fox Mulder the same in the book as he is in the TV show? And, whatever have you. Create. We live in a time where creators and illustrators and film people and writers, and especially writing community as large as it is praised. We are lauded. So please, please, please produce your work. Write quality stuff. We live in a time where there should be no excuse to produce at least legible things. I mean, Word damn near does it for you. Especially if you put in all the proofing. It does it for you. Now, other programs like Final Draft and other things, they actually do have a style and mechanism to them. So if you pay attention and you take one of these master classes, and if you haven't taken a master class, I wholeheartedly endorse it. Take one, even if it's acting or whatever it is. Take it, appreciate it, and move forward. If you get a chance in hell to take one of James Franco's classes, even if he offers it online, I don't care. If you get a chance to take that, fucking go for it. I mean, just to have him as a professor, something to read your work, to value what you've said, to contribute to your degree plan on what you're going to achieve, then yes, do it. You're going to get the most valuable feedback from an actor who is prolific. He's an academic actor. So is Natalie Portman. So is so many other people. And I'm sure they read quite the fuck a bit. So if they catch on to something you wrote, even if it's a fan fiction piece, they're going to appreciate that gesture. They're going to appreciate the fact that you took the time to expound upon their character when it to them maybe have seemed like a trivial thing. Where it may have seemed like, hey, I didn't really get a lot of screen time. I wasn't really that important. But in the world of fiction, you can be way more important than you think. So please, please, please contribute. So thank you, iHeartRadio. Thank you, Speaker Studio, for getting me there. And thank you to the writing community. Appreciate your fellow writers. Follow me on Twitter at DWelch9627. And hit me up on Instagram. You know, David, I think David.M.Welch or some bland ass shit like that. But you can find me. So on YouTube, I'm David the Sun Devil Poet. So find me there and hit me up. Love everybody.